2025 Early Connections Conference, Expression, presented by the Van Sloun Foundation. Early Connections Conference logo. Empowering Growth, How Experiential Learning and High Expectations Drive Student Independence.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. What are we still at this morning, technically? We are excited to share our presentation today called Empowering Growth, the role of experiential and incidental learning and skill development. I'm here with Rebecca Briatico, my colleague, and myself, Courtney Westcott, and we represent the Outreach Short Course Program at Perkins. So to start, we'd just like to introduce ourselves, let you know a little bit about us. I know you're hearing a lot from families so far, and they're the greatest educators. So we feel fortunate to be able to just share from our perspective as the educators as well. I am Courtney Westcott. I'm the Associate Director of our Outreach Short Course Program here. We do also have a table in the resource room. So if you'd like to learn more about outreach afterwards, definitely come find us. Our outreach short courses offer extracurricular skill building opportunities to students between the ages of 8 and 22 in a range of formats, largely residential programs. And I started my career at Perkins in 2012 in the secondary program, which is the high school aged program. I was a teaching assistant and later an assistant coordinator before coming over to the outreach program in 2016. I'm passionate about creating environments where our students can explore and take risks and discover their full potential. In my free time, I enjoy spending time outdoors with my dog and my cat, as well as caring for my indoor jungle of 100 or so houseplants.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Briatico. I'm the coordinator of our Outreach Short Course program. I began working at Perkins in 2023. I have a background in psychology and have worked in the special education field for over 6 years, supporting individuals with diverse needs in various capacities. I'm passionate about creating meaningful learning experiences and dedicated to expanding access and resources to all students. Outside of work, I enjoy working out and running. I'm currently training for my 7th half marathon, and I'm always looking for a new challenge. Up on the screen here, we just have a selfie of Courtney and I smiling.
So our session objectives for today, we're just going to be talking about practical strategies and insights to get you to start thinking about how you can start early, how the expectations that you set and the experiential learning opportunities that your child will engage in will empower them, and we want you to be empowered to allow your child to take part in tasks, no matter how small, and to really celebrate those moments. We're going to follow our presentation with a panel discussion from some of our outreach alumni and participants as well. And throughout, we're going to give you just some strategies to take away as the parents and caregivers.
We have two photos. One photo is a participant who is making an ice cream sundae and she's putting toppings on top of her ice cream. Another photo, we have a participant sitting at a table chopping up onions on a gray cutting board with a green knife.
So before we dive in, we have 3 questions on our slide here, just to get you to start thinking about you and your child. We want you to consider the following questions. We have 3 on the slide. I'm going to read them. So what is one small victory you've celebrated in your child's development? What is one skill or activity you hope your child will learn to enjoy as they grow? And if your child could tell you one thing about how they experience their world right now, what do you think it would be? So just ponder that, think about it. What would your answer be now? And we're going to revisit this afterwards. Why are we starting here with these questions? It's because every child's journey towards growth is going to be individualized and unique, but the meaningful moments of growth and the victories that we can celebrate now are going to make all the difference for your child and their future. Today, we're going to talk about concept development and building language and the power of language, starting now when your babies and toddlers are young and little, and how that's going to morph and grow as they get older.
All right, the foundation, building concept development. Our voices provide important information about the world, especially for children and babies with visual impairments and additional disabilities. Since they may not always have full access to visual cues, and the words we use to describe what's happening around them help them build connections, understanding, and a sense of predictability. We have a picture of a large bowl. It has some fruit salad in it. It has grapes, blueberries, strawberries, and pineapple. And then next to the bowl are a pair of hands holding a small cup with that fruit salad in it and some whipped cream. Early learning and concept development. The path to independence starts well before a child can pour a drink or hold a spoon. It begins with early learning. Through language, routines, and hands-on experiences, children develop a foundational concept that help them make sense of the world. Language is key. Naming the objects and describing their location, like saying, "This is your bottle, plates go in the cabinet," helps children connect the words with their environment. For children with visual impairments, consistent verbal descriptions are especially important for building understanding and confidence. Experience builds understanding. Simple everyday interactions like pressing a button to hear a sound or tipping a cup to pour water teach cause and effect. Pairing these experiences with language helps children understand how their actions impact the world, encouraging curiosity and problem solving. Routines matter. Predictable steps such as first we wash our hands, then we sit at the table. Help your children anticipate what comes next. Repetition and consistency builds understanding and trust, especially for babies and children with visual impairments. From understanding to doing. Before children can take part in tasks like feeding themselves, they need to understand what objects are, where they belong, and how they work. Once these early concepts are in place, they can move from watching to trying to doing, building independence step by step. While we focus on mealtimes today, these strategies apply across all areas of their daily living.
The image on this slide is a human hand holding a strawberry. This was during an Explore Boston program for elementary aged individuals, holding the strawberry in front of the Boston skyline, and there is an image of the Fenway Park sign in the back.
The power of inclusion. Experiential learning is learning by doing. It allows children to actively engage in their environment, try hands-on tasks, and gain understanding through experience rather than passive instruction. Instead of just telling a child what a spoon is, you can let them hold it, explore how it feels, and use it to either scoop or just to mouth. Experiential learning is how children learn best, by touching, moving, and interacting with their world. Especially our children with visual impairments who require even more explicit learning and exploration opportunities. For many children, learning happens naturally just by watching what's around them, seeing someone pour a drink and eventually trying it themselves, or overhearing a parent say, "Be careful, the pasta's boiling, it's hot," and understanding that boiling water means danger. This type of unplanned learning is called incidental learning. But for children with vision loss and additional disabilities, much of this passive learning doesn't happen in the same way. If they can't see the water being poured or the steam rising from the pot, they may not automatically pick up on these concepts. That's why we need to be intentional in providing hands-on experiences and verbal descriptions to help them learn through both incidental and experiential learning. So, involve your child in the bottle warming process by narrating each step, feeling the cold air from the fridge, carrying the bottle to the microwave, and opening up the microwave. Gently guide their hand to help open the microwave and touch the warm bottle, building their understanding of the process and fostering confidence in exploring the unknown. Otherwise, if you always just bring the bottle to your child, they're going to have no way of knowing how the bottle became warm. By combining incidental learning, absorbing information from the world around them, and experiential learning, actively engaging in tasks with their senses, we can help children build an understanding of the world in a way that makes sense to them.
Two images on this slide. So just for the preface, we didn't say this necessarily. All the images are from our outreach programs, and while many of them might be the older students, we were just trying to capture a lot of the mealtime essences. So that's what these images are. The top photo has students in assembly line format lining sheets of baking sheets with foil and with tater tots as they do a group cooking lesson. And the second is a individual exploring a toaster oven that is off, unplugged. A staff is holding it in front of them, and they're getting to explore the ins and outs of the toaster as a whole.
Strategies for building understanding through everyday moments. That's okay. Children learn best through hands-on experiences and everyday moments. By narrating actions and encouraging participation, we set the foundation. Narrate daily activities. Here's your cup. It's round and smooth. I'm placing it on the table. These small descriptions help your children connect language with actions, reinforcing routines and their language development skills. Encourage hands-on exploration. Let them feel different textures, soft bread, cold yogurt, crunchy crackers. Allow them to hold and explore utensils, cups, and containers. Use songs and repetitions. I'm not going to sing, don't worry. We open up the fridge and we grab the milk to reinforce learning. Promote active participation, hand under hand guidance. So instead of moving your child's hand for them, you place your hand underneath theirs and let them feel the motion, and then they get to decide when to engage. For example, when teaching scooping, you can guide their hand under yours as you bring the spoon to the bowl. Create safe space for trial and error. Make sure you focus on the effort, not perfection. If they spill water while pouring, say, "Great job, trying. Next time we're going to tilt the cup slower." Celebrate every attempt, big or small. "Great job scooping." By including children in tasks now, at any level, we will help them gain confidence, coordination, and problem-solving skills. Next, we'll explore how these early steps lead into greater independence in mealtime tasks.
The images on this slide have a young man wearing an apron, and he's practicing measuring flour. So he has a spoonful of, or a measuring cup filled with flour. He's using the backside of a knife to level it off. And the second is an image of a young woman leaning over a table, going to dive in for a homemade whoopie pie. All right, so partial participation and taking the small steps. Let's explore how children can start actively participating in tasks even before they fully master a skill, and what the idea of partial participation might look like. The photo on this slide is an overhead shot of 6 individuals at a table. They are preparing muffins or cupcakes of sorts, and there's an extra large bowl in the center of them, and they're all filling up their individual muffin trays. And so building confidence through participation. Mealtimes, as we've said, provide rich opportunities for exploration, to feel textures and to be able to label those textures and the sounds associated and the feelings associated. We know getting messy isn't always the preference, but for explorative purposes, it is very important. So just be descriptive and be, open while you're doing all the meal times. We know every mealtime is not going to lend for instructional opportunities. That's not our hope for you. We just want you to sort of, narrate what you're doing and just giving your child as much information as possible through those levels. So different supportive methods for learning early independence. We have these just guiding strategies. And so if you think about the process of, feeding yourself with a bottle and bringing the cup to your mouth and things like that, it can be a daunting process for a baby. And so think about how you can separate that larger task into smaller, more manageable steps. So we would try hand under hand, backward chaining, and just the power to try and to learn and to make mistakes. So when teaching a baby to bring a bottle to their mouth, we might break it into the steps to start hand under hand, as Rebecca described. Their hand would be over yours, so they're feeling the motion of bringing the bottle to their mouth. Over time, we would then use backward chaining. So once they become more familiar with the motion, we'd then encourage them to reach for the bottle, which is kind of the last step in the process, but then they're able to kind of piece the pieces together. The backward chaining would come the final step first, and they are taking an active role in that process. And then with time and repetition, this isn't a one afternoon, you're going to do all of these different steps. This would be months and months of time and practice and effort. But over time, with that repetition, the baby might start to reach, right? They might anticipate and start to reach for their bottle when they're hungry or using a sign, just whatever those precursor steps might be, they might start participating in that. This approach can be powerful because it offers immediate success during each of the small stages. It allows a sense of accomplishment. It can reduce frustration, right, versus expecting the whole task to be completed at once. If we're just focused on this small moment, then we can celebrate something big for that larger part of the process. It supports development of muscle memory and spatial awareness by focusing on the final act first, and it builds confidence in everyday routines like self-feeding and involving them, because we know that the more we empower and include our children, the more that they can learn and grow, again, small steps at a time.
All right, we have two pictures here. One picture is a female participant with short brown hair. She's using an oven rack push puller, and she is standing at an open oven, and she is using the push puller device to push the rack inside with some baked mac and cheese. For our other picture, we have two female staff smiling, and they are watching a female participant pour liquids into a blender.
So strategies for families and caregivers related to starting early. As we've mentioned, for toddlers, just really labeling and describing everything that's happening around them, whether it's the sounds or whether you are introducing new foods or new textures, like silly putty, I don't know, just different things that they might be exposed to. The simple actions like handing them items and exploring the items in entirety with them, but also just allowing them to explore as well, are important steps to build participation. You want to start small. Choices are really, really, really impactful, and it could be the smallest of choices that we're giving. It could be, do you want to eat first or drink first? Or do you want the red sock or the blue sock? It can be so simple, but just those level of choice making and empowering your child to make choices is just going to build their confidence. It's going to build the understanding that their words and opinions matter. So choices are very, very important. If communication is still emerging, then we can present different items, and they can, we can take their touch as them choosing that item first. So it's never too early to start choosing between two different toys, right? Or two different pacifiers, whatever it is that we're building a little bit of choice into, it can be those big moments. So these small moments give your child control and reinforce that their preferences are important. And by starting early and explicitly, and by building routines, including choice making into all of your daily routines, you're helping your child develop essential skills and confidence.
We have a picture of a staff member and a young man crouched down on the floor. Her hand is over his, and they are using a paper towel to clean up a mess on the floor. And then we have another picture of a participant with a grin on his face. He is crouched down on the floor, and there is a bunch of spilled ketchup, and he has a bunch of paper towels as he's about to clean it up. All right, building skills and confidence. Now that we've discussed how offering choices and helping your child explore concepts can lay the foundation for independence, let's talk about how you can build on that foundation to help your child develop new skills. We have a picture of a participant with a huge smile on his face, which you can't see. He is holding a wrapped up cauliflower in his right hand. Yeah, look at that smile. So, fostering gradual independence through everyday opportunities. Building skills and confidence is a gradual process. It starts with small choices and simple participation, gradually leading to greater confidence and skill development. Even if a task feels too big now, there's always small ways to include your child. If cutting fruit is too challenging, you can always have them put the cut up fruit into the bowl, or they can help you, they can assist you with cleaning the fruit before you cut it up. These small moments of participation lay the groundwork for bigger steps in the future. As your child becomes comfortable making choices across settings, they can start practicing everyday skills, holding their cup, using a spoon, or helping set the table. These activities build fine motor skills, coordination, and even social connections during meal times. Success isn't about perfection, it's about trying. When your child scoops food or drinks independently, even if they spill, they're still learning. Every small victory builds confidence and reinforces their ability to tackle more as they grow. By consistently offering opportunities to explore and practice, you're helping your child gain control and feel capable. These everyday experiences don't just build practical skills, they shape the foundation for independence in all areas of life. Remember, the goal is gradual independence. As your child practices these skills over time, they'll gain more control and feel more confident in their abilities. Before we move on, I want you to think about one small way your child could participate in the next meal. Maybe it's just reaching for a cup or feeling a plate or hearing a familiar word before eating. Just think about one thing you would try. Strategies for family caregivers in building skills and confidence. By consistently offering chances to try, learn, and grow, you're helping your child develop skills they need for greater independence, all while celebrating each small victory along the way. Helping your child build confidence and independence starts with everyday opportunities. By encouraging exploration, new experiences, you're fostering curiosity, resilience, and self-reliance. So encourage that hands-on exploration. Give your child the chance to experiment with tasks like pouring a drink, using utensils, or trying new foods. Gradually step back. I know it's easier said than done. At first, they may need your help, but as their confidence grows, step back and let them do more on their own. Support their progress without taking over completely. Make sure you let mistakes be learning moments. Mistakes are part of the process. So instead of fixing things right away, encourage that problem solving. So if they drop their spoon, you can ask, all right, how do we get a new one? Instead of just going and grabbing a new one, building resilience and decision making. Introducing new tools and challenges. So as they and their skills progress, introduce new utensils, different textures, and cups with lids to expand on these skills. Celebrate every step forward. Acknowledge their successes, big or small. A simple, you poured your own drink today, reinforces their progress and builds confidence in their abilities. By consistently providing these opportunities to try, learn, and grow, you're helping your child build the skills that they need for independence one step at a time.
The photos on this slide have another student practicing measuring with flour. We have an individual who is taking a mug out of a microwave wearing an oven mitt, and the third is a young lady with a large smile and a paper chef hat showcasing a pan of baked macaroni and cheese. So planning for the future. As skills and confidence grow, your child will start to amplify those abilities, preparing for a future of growing independence. This process takes time, but it's all about building on what they know and meeting your child where they're at. The photo on this slide has I know it's hard when it's this big, but it is a pot of boiling water. Student's hand is over the pot of the boiling water within a safe distance, but the top of her fingertips are covered in salt, which is just an alternate way that she could measure and know how much salt she was putting into the pot before flipping her hand over. So high expectations and high results. And again, we know this is further away for a lot of us here, but we want you to get in that growth mindset. So as children build skills and gain confidence, they'll begin to feel more capable at home, in group settings, and in their community. And by setting high expectations early, you are providing consistent opportunities to practice, and you're laying the groundwork for their future success. Routine, repetition, and gradual skill building not only strengthen abilities, but promote self-assurance. And the small tasks today, like mixing or pouring or washing items, can be generalized in their future to different opportunities. So you're not just teaching a task, you're preparing your child for meaningful participation and greater independence in their lives.
We have 3 pictures here. One picture, we have a participant who at a kitchen island, she's brushing crumbs off the island into a trash can. We have another picture of 2 participants with gloves on. They're standing at the stove top and they're putting stuff in a pan. And then our last picture is a participant. He's given 2 thumbs up. He's got a smile on his face and he is right in front of his homemade whoopie pies.
All right, so some tools for success and kind of common adaptations used. We will, after the presentation, if you care to check anything out, we have a bunch of kitchen adaptations as well as some at our table over in the resource room. So as your child develops, exploring and introducing new tools that might just make their day-to-day easier, whether it's high contrast items, different colored items that attract their attention, different textured items, whatever it might be. But tools, both low and high tech, can support independence by reducing barriers and just promoting success in different ways. Simple items like ergonomic utensils, non-slip mats can stabilize dishes, color contrasted cups and plates, and other elements. Low-tech adaptations, rubber bands. You probably have a whole drawer full at home. A rubber band can be a tactile marker that can help your child differentiate shampoo from body wash or Play-Doh from glue, whatever it might be. But the rubber band and the labeling system can be an impactful way. There are things that you can purchase like bump dots or wiki sticks or Velcro or color contrasted tape, a whole sorts of adaptive tools and equipment that can be purchased. But then there are also, lower tech. If you just had tape, it is tactile. It does have a texture to it. So you don't always have to purchase the items. It's not necessarily about making it fully tactile and complex or buying the most expensive item. It's really about being intentional with how we're labeling and marking things for the child, that it makes sense for them and that they can have greater access.
In the photos here, we are showcasing items like Braille measuring cups, a variety of different measuring tools, and adaptive technology. They're just a few of the examples of the many tools available that can help foster independence and enhance success in daily tasks. Like we said, we brought a few liquid level indicators, cut-proof gloves, and other adaptive tools for you guys to explore after this.
All right. So as the caregivers, you play a vital dual role. Very important where you are right now. Your first job is to love your child and to nurture your child and to grow alongside your child and all of that. But you are also the first stop. All of these little steps and mindsets and opportunities of exploration start at home. And so that's why we're here to remind you that to celebrate all of those little moments, because you are doing the hardest job at the starting point. But hold your child to high expectations. And that doesn't always mean that you're allowing them to just figure it out on their own and expect them to be independent. I do air quotes for independent because that's a large term. But have hopes in their potential, right? Have a vision that they can do more than what they think they can do or what you might think that they can do at that time. Believing in their potential and providing the space to support them reach it is what's the most important. We want you to provide a nurturing space where your child can safely take risks, make mistakes, and develop resilience. So by reinforcing routines and introducing tools and adaptations and believing in their ability to do more over time, that's the groundwork and the foundation that you're starting at home.
We have a picture here of a participant assembling ingredients that they're about to cook together in the kitchen. Another picture, we have a participant standing at the stove top with a smile on his face, and he's stirring beans on the stove top. And then we have another picture of a student. He's using a whisk and he's whisking batter in a mixing bowl.
Playing with the clicker. So just our takeaways for you. I know we said a lot of words. Some of them might have been intimidating. Some of them might have just been all common sense, but we hope that it meant something differently to each of you. Every small opportunity that you offer today and tomorrow will be the change maker for your child's future. Encourage your child to do and describe and narrate your lives all alongside them and just expose them to everything. Building independence does not mean doing everything on your own or on their own. It just means participating and having the chance to try to gain confidence. And with your guidance and support alongside them, you'll be able to recognize every bit of effort and remind that you're not just teaching skills, you are building resilience and problem solving and that growth mindset for the child. So as your child grows, so will the opportunities, and many foundational skills do start at home, but there are other environments once you get there, whether you might be involved in the infant toddler program or other supportive programs for your babies. But things like outreach and other supportive extracurricular programs will be there when you are ready to also provide the time and space and instruction that you will not have the time to do with your busy schedules and home life and natural occurrences.
All right, we have a picture of a participant who is pouring water into a measuring cup, and she's using the finger hook technique. And then we have another picture of two participants. They are placing tater tots on a pan that's going to be cooked for dinner. Alrighty, so as we close, we leave you with this reminder. Empower your child to take the first step and every step after. Through hands-on learning, expectations, and confidence built from experience, your child can grow into someone who not only navigates this world not built for them, but helps reshape it. With your support, they can thrive, adapt, and leave a lasting impact. Let's take a moment to reflect. At the start of our session, we posed a few key questions. Now, with everything we just explored, let's revisit them. Has your perspective shifted on how your child participates or what success looks like for them? Will you approach everyday tasks differently moving forward? Growth is made up of countless small victories, some that are visible and a lot that go unnoticed. So think about this. What is one small victory you'll celebrate in your child's development? What is one new skill or experience you'll introduce to help them grow? Wherever you are in this journey, know this. Every step forward matters. Keep learning, adjusting, and celebrating progress, yours and theirs. Because it's in these moments that we build connection, confidence, and lasting change. Thank you guys for being part of this conversation. We're now going to hear from a group of our outreach participants and alumni, individuals who have lived this journey and embrace these values in a unique way. And they're going to share how their experiences, both in our program and beyond, have helped shape who they are today. It's going to be right here. Here, Jess. Do you want to go here? Yep, I can. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jezzy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tom. Yeah, yes. Okay, so I started doing outreach programs in 2009 when I was 7 years old, and I stopped doing them around COVID, my senior year of high school. I attended a lot of programs in my time. Most notably, I attended Space Camp. I attended the 3-week program in the summer. I did the virtual program during COVID. I'm trying to think. I've done a bunch of them. And I currently work as a marketing assistant in the marketing and development department here at Perkins. I'm also going to Merrimack College studying communication over there. But yeah, I've really enjoyed doing outreach programs because I was able to connect with a lot of blind students. And in a world where I feel like it's not necessarily made for me, and sometimes I was the only blind student in my entire school. Going to outreach programs really helped me find that space, find that community that I was so desperately craving.
Thank you. I'm a high schooler. I'm 17 years old. I started doing outreaches in 2023. My very first outreach was Space Camp. I've done the 5-week program during the summer, self-defense, and I always keep coming back because it's so much fun and very educational for me and very important to me. And yeah.
So one of our questions that we have up here, and Jezzy, you can start since you have Hello. Oh, it's Beth. What has been your favorite outreach program?
My favorite outreach program was Space Camp, 100%. For those who can see, I am wearing a NASA sweater right now. The program I always did there was Aviation Challenge, as I have an interest in aerospace and aeronautical engineering. Um, I've done Space Camp twice. Hopefully, I can do it a third time, but I'm not going to push my luck. What about you?
My favorite outreach program was probably, oh God, the 3-week program, which I did my freshman year of high school going into it, so 2017. And I really enjoyed that program because it was the longest outreach program I've done. So lots of social opportunities, lots of opportunities for skill development. We had that program. The way that it works is you basically go through classes in all sorts of blindness and low vision skills over the course of, an 8 to 3 school day of sorts. And then there's social opportunities in the evenings and on weekends. So it feels like one big blind summer camp. And it was a really, really fun experience.
This doesn't work, but it does also. So sorry. Um, would you
What, yes.
I'll give it back. I'll bounce back and forth. Great. So, Tom, I know you started back a while ago. Would you say that your first time attending outreach and like your enthusiasm and excitement about the program was the same as it was doing your like the 3-week program?
I mean, I started doing outreach when I was probably 7 years old, so I don't really remember much from back then. But I do remember being, yes, I was nervous. Yes, it was definitely a very new environment, but I definitely feel like I had a bit of excitement in me, oh my God, I'm gonna meet actual blind kids for the first time. Which is, I mean, maybe not for the first time, but be in an environment like this for the first time. And it was a nervous experience for both me and my parents. I mean, we had a lot of trust in Perkins, knowing that this is like the most famous school for disabled kids in the world, probably. And having trust in the Perkins brand and my experiences that I had had beforehand in the infant toddler program. But even then, sending your little 7-year-old kid off for a weekend away for people that they don't even know, even if it's only 15 minutes from your house, can be a bit intimidating. But even with that anxiety, I felt, going out of it, I felt like I had made like my first real blind friend and I had met people who actually understood me. And I feel like my enthusiasm for outreach only went up from there.
For me, as I said, Space Camp was my very first outreach.
Space camp takes place.
Space Camp takes place in Huntsville, Alabama. So we traveled with a group of participants from Perkins or in public high schools around here, and we all traveled down. Yes, Alabama's down to Alabama for a week. And so for this to be my very first outreach, absolutely, it was so nerve-wracking. My mom was so worried. Um, but going to these outreaches definitely has taught me to be more independent. I learned so much more about myself coming here. Something else that is very like really important is like the staff here encourage you to do a lot more things independently. Of course, they'll be there to guide you and they'll be your safety net. But one of the main things that they focus on here is making sure that you can do things. And they want to push you and they want to encourage you to do more. And so that's something that I've absolutely loved every time I come here. Um, I've made so many friends coming to these outreaches. I've done a total of 8. I counted while I was sitting down waiting. um, but it was like 8 wonderful outreaches, and it gets better every single time because I get to meet such like unique and like meaningful people that I don't get to interact with on my daily life because I'm like the only visually impaired person in my high school. And so I don't interact with others that are similar to me or have different disabilities that I was not aware of before. And so coming to outreach is absolutely very highly educational, not just for me as a participant, but also for the staffs.
So, I'm going to ask one more question, but then if you all have questions, we want to turn it over to you too. So, what advice would you give to either, right? In this room, you might have some family members who could not necessarily think about their child staying away from home for an hour, never mind a weekend. But what advice do you have for a parent to allow their child to kind of spread their wings, but also for a potential first-time outreach participant?
Some advice I would give is that the journey is long. It's going to take 1,000 steps. And if the child doesn't take the first one, they're not going to get there. And so if they take that first step, they're just going to want to keep walking more.
Some advice that I would give is that even if you're afraid of sending your kid away from home for the weekend, I feel like the experience of being at outreach, both from a perspective of socializing with other blind and vision impaired kids, but also gaining skills in an environment where you're not distracted by classes. Maybe you might only see your TVI once a week and not be able to go through all the skills that you need to, or maybe I don't know what your situation's like, but like there's so many obstacles in the sighted world that get in the way of blind and low vision kids getting the supports they need. And outreach is a place where none of that exists. And you can just get the skills, meet those people who are gonna, get those connections with other blind kids, but also gain the skills in an environment that is only made for them rather than an environment that is not made for them at all. So I feel like that whole experience is invaluable, and I recommend getting started with outreach as soon as possible so you can really reap all the benefits by the time that your kid goes off, graduates high school or whatever.
All right, I can ask them questions all day. And I'm just gonna say, we didn't fully rehearse this, so we didn't plant those answers. I'm just very impressed and grateful for these wonderful participants. So do we have any questions from the audience, whether it is questions for us from the presentation or for our alumni specifically? Participants and alumni, sorry.
Hi, my name is Barbara Jones, and I'm a grandmother of a special needs. He's deaf and blind. My question is, your outreach program, does it have any opportunity for a kid who's lower functioning?
Yes. So all of our outreach programs have a range of students who might come to the program. Our goal for outreach is to ensure that we're going to be able to support the child who comes to the presentation. The program. The child that comes to the program, that we have the staff and the supports in place that we can meet their needs. And so through our, interview process and application process, we just have lots of discussions with the families to learn more about your child and just to determine what program might be the right fit for them, right? So all of our programs have different themes to them, where it can be as simple as like a girls' weekend where we're just bringing all the girls together and doing what they want to do, or boys' weekend. And then it could also be more intricate, like the cooking weekend or things like that. But our goal is the social piece, right? So the themes and the program and the opportunities we're providing are very important. But if a peer gets to meet another peer like them and engage and interact in a genuine, meaningful way, then our job is done. So it might not always be the full access to your kid's gonna come and make their meal start to finish, things like that. But allowing them to be in a new environment with unfamiliar people with different expectations, that's where the meaning comes in. Of course. We're always exploring like new and different ways. We've had families are like, can we have a Stargart weekend where it's just students with one particular diagnosis? So if we can get the supports in place to make that happen, and we have those experts that are there, and we make sure, we have people who are fluent in communication styles and things, we're more than willing to explore how to make it possible.
So first, I wanted to thank you both for sharing your experiences. I know that can be difficult in a group, so I very much appreciate your courage. My question is not necessarily about outreach, but I was super excited about this topic because I was drawn to the high expectations. So I have high expectations for my daughter because I know that she's smart. I just know that her parents, her teachers, her support staff have to figure out how to get it out of her. So my question is more of maybe like from the outreach to the public schools, if you will, if we have a very special, unique child, any sort of supports, like recommendations you have for us to try to get the public schools to believe, to set high expectations for our children as well. Because I'm experiencing myself for the last 2 years, so my daughter's almost 5, and seeing from a plethora of other parents that that is just not happening. So what is your recommendation to get public schools to believe, to set high expectations for our children as well?
Well, I'm definitely going to call on you to just talk about your public school experiences. But from our perspective, just as the supporters and the educators, that's the most challenging part, right? The presumed assumptions about what can or can't be done for those individuals, it's a preconceived notion. And sometimes it just might be you as the parent trying to bridge those gaps there, whether that's sharing videos or having, an about me book that's really true to who she is and what her abilities are and how she navigates this world. We always say that a child can be a different human at home than they are in the school and than they are in an outside environment. So it's important to expose all of the members of that person's team and the support that are around them so that they know the full-fledged version of who that person is, like fundamentally, aside from the disability, aside from the diagnoses. So again, it's kind of going back to that, the opportunity to try and encouraging everyone in her life to encourage her to do and to try everything that is being exposed versus placing that, oh, she can't do that. That's not within her purview. So I know it's not a targeted, tangible, straightforward answer. Your advocacy is going to go a hard way, like long way. It's going to be hard. You're going to feel so frustrated where, again, you have this vision of how remarkable and how capable and how able she is to do a range of things. And it's really just getting other people who aren't as comfortable with this population or aren't as fluid with it. Like, we're going to have to be the educators to some degree. And the hope is that it's going to unlock, right? That the more we educate, the more we're the ambassadors for promoting independence and reminding everybody that the ability to try is what's going to allow them to participate, is really huge. Anything from your perspective, though?
So one thing I want to say is that unfortunately the world was not created for people with a disability. So we ourselves had to adapt. And there's nothing that we can't do. We just all do it differently. Of course, I was very fortunate to have a really good team within my school. But something that I've learned to grow on is being a self-advocate for myself, because my team cannot do something if I don't tell them what I need. And so growing up, it would be like really nerve-wracking because I need something, but I'm really scared to ask because it could be a lot more work for someone else. But at the same time, I can't do the best of my ability if I don't have the things I need. And so, like Courtney said, it's very much on the more advocating part. It's very frustrating sometimes when people just cover their ears or don't want to listen or refuse to look onto the positive side that we are able to do something. But we can do everything, we just do it differently. And that's something that people have to just get through their minds, is that everything and anything could be done, it just is done differently.
I'd say for me, echoing some of what she said, self-advocacy is huge. I'd say it's the single biggest, most important thing that your child can learn during their K to 12 years. And for me, at least, like I started back in 3rd grade. That's when my TVI was starting to teach self-advocacy and teach me how to, advocate, oh, I need this blown up in the classroom or whatever. By fifth grade, I was starting to attend my own IEP meetings. And by seventh grade, I transferred from public school to private school, where I was the only legally blind student in the entire school and had to advocate for my needs much more so because I didn't necessarily have a TVI advocating for me all the time. So that may not be the journey for everyone, but that experience in particular really helped me out when I was transitioning to college and having to advocate for my needs exclusively without the help of any sort of TVI support or anything. So not to get way too ahead of myself or anyone there, but I definitely think starting young with self-advocacy and really, having a TVI, having a meeting with a TVI and being like, hey, can this child start maybe working on these self-advocacy skills, or even, eventually getting rid of like a paraprofessional if your kid has one, or scaffolding it, having less and less support from them over time, I feel like will really, really help a student if they are ready for that, of course. If your student needs one-to-one support for whatever reasons, then, go for that. But you'd be amazed at how many districts might have low expectations for their students and may not think that a student is capable of what they actually are. But then you put them into an environment like outreach that's made for them, and then they really shine. And it's got me thinking, like, a lot of people will throw around terms like, high functioning, low functioning, things like that. But functioning can also be different across different environments. So when you're in a place like outreach, a student who might be lower functioning but not getting the supports that they need in a public school environment might become more middle level functioning or whatever. So it really, really depends on just getting the supports and hammering home that your student is more capable than, they might think they are.
I have a question from the chat. This is Amy. The question is from Georgina, and she asks, how to spark interest in your child, how to motivate your child. Any suggestions?
Exposure, everything, right? You're not going to know. You're not going to know where that spark is. I still am finding new sparks all of the time when I'm exposed to something new. Your child doesn't know what they don't know. So by giving them different music, giving them different tactile objects, finding the game, exploring textures, exposing them to new and different people, right? Different peers, different experiences is really the biggest thing. Exposure is really key. Exposure paired with the intentionality of exploring things with your child, right? If we just give them a model of a giraffe, that's going to be meaningless. They probably need a life-size model of a giraffe. Otherwise, they're going to think a giraffe is a little handheld toy. And when they encounter one in the real life, it's going to be very shocking. So just exposure to new and different things, and it might take a long, long time. And it's really like honing in to just your child, right? Is their smirk coming out just a tiny bit when they hear a certain song, a certain food that got them, or your fun and games and dancing, and it captured their attention. So just thinking about what are maybe peers that are their age, what are they being exposed to? Can we expose our child to this as well? And might they enjoy it in a different way? That is my layer of advice, but I don't know if you two have advice at all. No? No? Okay. Moving.
That's it from the chat.
Does that answer the question, hopefully?
Yes, absolutely. She said thank you.
All right. So yes, it's really we just had one of our participants explored our table, and she said, "What is this?" And it was an oven rack push puller, which is just like a wooden tool. And you wouldn't necessarily think. We brought the tool to the Mass Commission for the Blind conference, and educators and parents, they were like, "What is this?" And all it is, it's a piece of wood that is intentionally created to be an extension of your arm to be able to grab the tray, the oven rack, pull it out, and then the tool also will push it in. So it's sometimes just being exposed to what is out there, trying things in a different way, because like Jesse said, they can and they will do everything. We just might have to unlock the how. How are they going to do that? How are they going to access it? How are we going to figure out what their interests are and how they're going to engage with this world around them that, again, they might not be experiencing in the same ways. So it's really getting to learn your child and your students and trying to just provide them with the experiences so that eventually it can all be unlocked for them in a very staggered formation. So those are our words of wisdom. Our wonderful Jezzy and Tom, do you have any final words that you would like to leave this group with?
Honestly, my mind blanked. I'm so sorry. Okay. Something I just want to say is that encourage your child or family member to do everything, even if it's just starting off with a little guidance, because we all need guidance in some sort of way, and that's how we learned. If you can encourage your child to do what they think is unimaginable at first, and for them to just do it and just be able to accomplish it, especially on their own, the weight of the world just like falls off their shoulders. And when you come to outreach, you have people, you have the safety nets, you have the support that like is willing to help. And you meet so many people like you or similar to you that you can like share the stories like, oh, did you also have like this happen to you? And then like it's honestly so much fun. Um I really hope that this conversation was very beneficial because I just had a lot of fun talking about myself. So
So we always say at Perkins, like Perkins helps kids with disabilities find their place in the world. And I can definitely attest to that. I feel like if it weren't for outreach programs or the incidental program or any of the other things I've done at Perkins, I feel like I wouldn't have the skills that I would have today, because it's one thing to meet with your TVI or your O&M specialist once a week in a public school setting, but it's a completely different thing to be immersed in the blindness world, in the low vision world, for a weekend or a week or multiple weeks at a time, and just have that be the only thing that you're focusing on. I feel like that's when a child's true potential is unlocked. I feel like that's when they get people who understand them and are willing to support them through situations that they or their family might otherwise think are unimaginable. I mean, other than driving and being a surgeon, blind people and low vision people can do a lot of most other things. And I'm not saying that every blind person can do everything, but I'm saying that there are workarounds to pretty much everything that you're told that your kid can't do in terms of just making something accessible. So trying to find those ways that things can become accessible, but you can bring something that might feel impossible a little bit closer to reality for your child, I feel is really important, because that's when a student's potential can really be unlocked. Because I'm a big believer in, the social model of disability, where they say, you might be disabled on paper, like by an actual condition, but even more so, you're disabled by society's low expectations and by people thinking that things are impossible. So just finding where you can find that possibility and the things that your kid might not currently be able to do. And a lot of that has been found through doing programs like outreach and doing other things at Perkins. So this kid definitely has found his place in the world because of that. So thank you, Perkins.
I can't close it better than that. So we're just going to say thank you for your time. We are happy to answer any other questions outside of the microphone. And like I said, we have a table over in the other room. So if you want to come chat or learn or tell us more about your child, we're always interested to hear. Thank you again. Enjoy lunch.